All right, so new office. Old office is getting turned into a nursery. Becoming a dad. A little crazy, a little scary, but something a little bit more exciting. Okay, not more exciting than having a kid, but also exciting is I got a loaner camera from Canon. The R3, gonna test it out tonight, tomorrow at the Red Sox, put it through its paces, test it against the R5, test it against the 1DX, see what I like the best, see what it's good for sports, see what's good for anything else, and excited to see how it goes. So I'll let you know the results right now. So, the R3, a photographer's dream. Is it a great camera? Yeah, it's great. It's top of the line from Canon, just like top of the line from Nikon or Sony. Any of these cameras are going to be amazing. So I don't want you to think like this is the one you got to get. I use Canon. It's a new one. Want to test it out. Here's my thoughts. So first of all, yeah, it's an improvement over the 1DX that I have, and it just makes my life a little bit easier. It just has the eye focus, so I can focus on the picture just a little bit better. I don't have to like follow them or make sure the little focus point is right on their chest or face or whatever. I can just boop, eye focus, gets their head through the whole motion. Much easier and very welcomed. Okay, I love that on the R5. Great on the R3 as well. 30 frames a second, also amazing. Again, makes my life just a little bit easier over the 1DX that I currently use to shoot sports. Right, the 30 frames just gives me a couple more frames to choose from. You know, with the pitcher's going through his motion, the guy's swinging, just gives me 1 or 2 frames extra to kind of choose from. Make sure I get the frame I want. If you're just shooting a swing, you're shooting a pitcher in their motion, it's not like you're getting every single little moment that you want to get. You still have to time things up. If you want the ball coming right out of the pitcher's fingertips, you're not going to get that by just powering through on 30 frames and letting it go. You're not going to get the ball on the bat just holding down the frames 30 frames per second and just hoping you get it. You still have to time those things up. So it's not something that's going to be a game changer for getting those, very precise images. But it does give you a couple more options. It's very useful, especially in baseball when there's a lot of downtime between pitches and things like that. You can go through. It's not that bad to go through those photos because a lot of times, a swing only takes, half a second, less than half a second. So you're only shooting like 10, 12 frames, maybe. And it's very easy to go through and tag those if you get something that's good. And yes, I've been using it on the 400 with an adapter. So all the images that you see are through that adapter. I think it works great. I haven't used it without the adapter, so I can't compare one versus the other, but, everything looks sharp. Everything looks good, especially even compared to the 1DX that doesn't have an adapter. Looks good, if not better. So, adapter, still good to use. Ooh, so rolling shutter. On the R5, I've said before, you're using the electronic shutter with the 20 frames a second, but sometimes the bat looks a little bit weird or the ball's oblong or, in soccer, same thing, the ball looks a little bit weird. This, I haven't really noticed that. Maybe a little bit with the ball sometimes, on a pitch or, right after it gets hit by the bat. But for the most part, it just looks like a normal picture coming off a DSLR camera. But that rolling shutter effect is minimized, especially compared to the R5. And that's one of the downsides and one of the reasons that I don't use the R5 as my main sports camera body. So if I had this, I definitely have no qualms about using it as my first camera body for the majority of the work that I shoot for sports. Now, I did think I noticed it when I got up to a really high shutter speed. This can go up to 1/64,000th of a second, but I did take one at a pretty high shutter speed with a high ISO, and so you can see there might be a little bit of the ball being, not perfectly circular, but it's okay. That one's not that bad compared to what the R5 would have produced. You could move the focus around with this touchpad, but it was very sensitive and it, you're also using it to focus. So I didn't want to move the focus point when I'm actually just trying to focus. So I actually turned that off, but you could still move it with the joystick. So I still move it around with the joystick and just use the big AF button to focus, which is really nice. It's nice to have that big button here on the R3. And again, the focusing was great. Everything worked well. I can focus with just the normal focus point using this button, and I set it up so that this button would do the eye focus, not my eye, I'll get into that, but following the subject, either their face or their eye. And in baseball, that works pretty well because you can just keep it on that person. There's not a lot of people going back and forth. Again, I've used the R5 for soccer, and I've used that eye focus, and sometimes it's not sure which player to use, which brings me to the next point of the follow iris, no, I don't know what it's called exactly, the eye focus, where it follows my eye to set the focus point. Now I calibrated it, and in baseball it's really not that useful because people are generally pretty static. So I'm not necessarily like switching from one subject to another subject just using my eye. Now again, in soccer or football or basketball, say the guy's dribbling down the field and I'm on that player, but then I want to switch to the defender, or he passes to someone else in the same frame, I could just move my eye, and that should move the eye focus point and then follow that new player. So I could see that being very useful. Definitely something that would take a lot of getting used to. Now the big question, will I buy one? No, at least not right now. If my 1DX craps out, yeah, I'll probably upgrade to this instead of buying a new 1DX Mark II or Mark III. As I said before, this does make my life easier. It makes it easier to get some of those photos, makes it easier to take a couple extra photos, get, slightly better moments potentially, but I'm really still getting the same images that I got with the 1DX Mark II that I am with this. It just takes a little bit extra effort, and selling that camera and buying this one for a difference of a couple grand probably isn't that worth it to me, just to maybe make my life a little bit easier. Because just being a little bit easier isn't necessarily going to make me more money. This camera's not going to suddenly increase my revenue. Now, if I needed the 30 frames a second for certain aspects, or there's something that I really needed about it, then yeah, I would upgrade. And again, I already have an R5, so I still have the mirrorless option. I can still do a silent shutter if I need to, for if I'm shooting events or things like that. Still have the eye focus when I'm doing portraits with the R5. And, I don't see a time where it's like, oh, I need 30 frames a second over 20 frames a second. So really, I feel like right now I have the best of both worlds with the R5 to shoot events and portraits and things like that. And I have the 1DX for those sports and fast action types of shoots. So again, great camera. I'm sure any, top of the line camera from any manufacturer is going to be amazing. I've, talked to people that have the new Nikons. They love them. They're like, oh, I might need to get a second one. But, that's my thoughts on the R3. Again, if I need a new camera body for sports, definitely going to look into getting one of these. But for now, it's not necessarily going to improve my photography that much. But if you're looking for a new camera, you're not going to go wrong with getting this camera. It's amazing. I loved using it. Sad to send it back to Canon, but I'm not going to miss it too much. So I hope that was helpful. And if you have any other questions, I'll try to answer them. Didn't use it with video or anything like that, because I don't really use my 1DX that much for video either. So really just using it as, what if it replaced that camera for me as my primary sports body. All right. Hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got something helpful out of it. I don't know. See you next time.